If you're working and you're being paid by someone and you're having a meeting, I don't think it should be an option to turn the camera off. I know sometimes people's cameras break. This seems to happen an awful lot actually as well. You know, normally when there's blue tack stuck over the flipping camera. But I do think it's rude, and I think that should be a given that if you're turning up for a meeting, you should show yourself.
Put your pants on, show up for the goddamn meeting, and turn on the camera.
Unless you have the plague or your Wi-Fi is truly poor.
Yeah, absolutely.
My name is Sian Horn. I am the founder of Elite Pilates, the Club Women's Network, a national network for women that work for themselves. I also create content.
My name is Judie Russell. I teach people how to make videos through the Vid Academy, and sometimes I make videos.
My name is Jen, and I am the co-founder of a digital marketing agency called Velocity Growth.
My name is Jay Woodard. I am the founder and creative director of Ad32. We create content for SMEs, corporates, all different kind of products, food, fashion, all that kind of stuff. So it's between photo and video.
Hello and welcome to episode 31 of Unbranded. Today we are going to talk about breaking down internal comms or internal communications. I think this is something that I personally didn't know it was a thing until I got a job as a project manager on an internal comms project. And I was like, it's just people emailing each other. Like, what's the big deal? But now, after a few years since that, I'm like, okay, internal comms is really important. And miscommunication costs businesses millions each year. So in this episode of Unbranded, we are going to discuss ways potentially that you can protect yourself against internal chaos in any business size, even as a sole trader. And, I was looking it up there. Apparently, for mid-level employees, the cost can rise to around 100% of the annual salary just to replace them. So if someone, is getting 50 grand a year, you're going to cost 50 grand in replacing them between recruiting, training, lost productivity during the transition period. So and obviously losing employees isn't the only thing that can go wrong. But can I just get your experiences with internal comms, or maybe a story about what you think of when you hear of internal comms? And Sian, I'll start with you first.
Oh God, I don't know where to start. There's so many. I worked as HR when I worked for Whitbread in Ireland when I first moved here, because there wasn't an HR department. So I was sent back to college to do European employment law. And that's when you really highlight the whole problem with internal communication. I think we've spoken about this before. Emails are great, and I love to have a paper trail and to see things on paper. But sometimes you need to hear the tone of voice. So communication, like we would have always had a 10 by 10 meeting, a quick 10 minutes with my team, just saying what's going on for the day. And we would have a 5 at 5. So we'd hand over to the next people because it was kind of a shift situation. And we'd do that handover in 5 minutes, but it kept the flow of communication going. Obviously now we've moved on quite a bit, and there's a lot of software that you can buy for internal comms, but you have to use it properly. And there's sometimes that you just shouldn't use it in my eyes, because you do need that personal, private touch and feel and communication as well. But I've sat in rooms dealing with, tribunal sort of cases, or people pulling cases on people, and it's all down to a lack of communication. It's all down to an email that's been sent. They haven't understood what was expected of them. The other person hasn't communicated it properly. So it does solve a lot of time and a lot of issues. But I do think the mixture of using like a high, good performance software package with the human touch is much safer. But I'll give you a quick story, actually. I was employed not so long ago, a couple of years ago, by a really massive company to talk to them about how they communicate in this scenario. And I'm talking about thousands of staff now. And it was the management team, and they were talking about an incident where they felt that they hadn't got the message across. And I said, well, realistically, what is the message you want to get across? And the message was thank you. But they'd spent so many times making scripts and writing out it looked so unauthentic by the time that they were recording it. They all looked like robots because they were so uncomfortable. It didn't transpire. It didn't. And I said, well, honestly, now the message you're trying to get over is thank you. Why couldn't you have just said thank you? Why did you have to go in? Why did it have to be so complicated? Because sometimes that's all people want to hear is thank you very much for all your hard work. This was amazing. What did we achieve? You're unbelievable. Thank you very much. That's it. That's the end of it. Make it simple.
Yeah, and it's so funny because like my new phrase is it could have been an email, like is when someone's like, let's make a video, just send an email. A video doesn't have to be everything. And I think that you should concentrate your efforts into things that, like, I think that when you're about to deliver a message and you go to video first, you go, why is this a video? And I think you need a good reason to determine why you're making this video as opposed to a picture or an email or walking up to someone's desk and giving them the message. Very interesting. Jay, what's your experience with internal comms?
I've done it all, to be honest. I've done it from the high, like I used to work for a prominent insurance company. I was a VIP broker for them when I was living in Dublin. Like we were center of Dublin, the offices. So like all those comms, all that into stuff. Like the thing with, down to obviously myself and my business now and stuff, and the freelancers I use to on separate projects and all kind of stuff. So it's like Slack, WhatsApp, Discord is one I'm using a lot lately. It's kind of taken over from Slack, to be honest. Slack has kind of fallen by the wayside. But even like when I was working for Public Work, it was all done on Slack. The team were all on Slack and this kind of stuff. It's just accountability, really, isn't it? Just to have it's in writing, but it's not an email kind of job. It's there somewhere. But pros and cons, like we can go into the cons of it all happily soon. But like there's definitely, I think there's more. It all depends on the people. But there could be big cons as well and that kind of stuff. But it's obviously needed. You need internal comms for everything. Like there's projects I'm working at the moment, and there's stuff being passed back and forth. I'm doing a full rebrand now of my business. Again, the designers on Discord with me were chatting back and forth the whole time. So it's good that it's not an email scenario, because she said, do you want to do email or Discord? I said, to be honest, Discord, because that's where I am in my life now. I don't want to be back and forth with emails and this. Like, if you have something to say, just say it in the chat. And if I see it, I'll get back straight away. I'm not waiting on emails to come back and forth. It's much easier, much more accessible. And I think that's the way internal comms are going. I think the days of just in an email is gone. I think it's more chats, all that kind of stuff. But I like the one thing I would say, and the one thing I try to do with my business is stay away from WhatsApp. Keep it off WhatsApp. Get it onto a separate channel altogether. Firstly, because there's boundaries for the clients that it's on that app. Because WhatsApp is personal. Like you have your family, your friends, all that kind of stuff in there.
But this is internal comms, no?
But exactly. So like even with that though, like with freelancers, like if I have people on my projects, keep it off WhatsApp. Put them on Discord and a server, this kind of stuff like Slack. Sorry, a client project is what I mean. Sorry. So that's how I would do it. I just try your best to keep them off the channels, because obviously WhatsApp, you don't want to wake up to 90 messages going, what the fuck is this? Because you're not going to go back and look. I never do anyway. I never go back and like, what's going on? What's the update? But yeah. They either go to the archive or go to unread. But I think when we sent out a survey, when I was doing that internal comms project, we sent out a survey and asked people how they prefer to be delivered information. And I remember like we listed like 5 different things. Was it email, messaging, some kind of messenger, what we were using at the time, face-to-face, and it was like 20%, 20%, 20%, 20%. And you're like, how do you just satisfy all of them? Because I hated getting pings. I found it interrupted my flow, and I was like, it's not important, so I had to turn off notifications that I was missing stuff. So it's like everyone's different, and it's very awkward, but we'll come to the cons, as you said. Jen, how has your experiences been with internal comms?
It can get mixed up quickly. I mean, like I'm just thinking of like big examples in the back of my mind where like myself and my business partner, when we were growing Velocity Growth, we would have an hour-long meeting, we would hash something out, and we would come to a conclusion. And then that conclusion would be delivered to the team. But the team had no context on how we got to that conclusion many a time. And then there was like, there was a gap sometimes in that communication. Communication is just something that I've had to personally work on over and over and over again, because I just don't have any facial expressions a lot of the time. Sometimes I'm even watching back the clips of like the 4 of us and I'm like,
I'm jealous of you, because in all of the clips I'm like over facial, and I'm like, I wish I could just be like Jen and just like, look normal.
Yeah. I just have this constant, what's the funny term for it? Resting bitch face. Yeah. But like, I'm really nice, but it's only when I start talking that my face lights up a little bit. But I find that I even have to like actively think, like smile. Like you're talking to someone, make sure that you're looking at them in the eye, make sure you're talking, make sure you're doing this, make sure you're doing that. So I have like all of these subtle communication cues that I'm trying to like tell myself in the background. But that gets lost if I'm like diving straight into something like trying to be as clear as possible. And sometimes like body language is something that goes over my head and both that I don't deliver. And that's really important. But in terms of like communication channels, we use Slack internally quite a bit. I try to keep things off email, but I work to inbox zero and I do 2 blocks of email, 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening. And we have moved ourselves away a lot from trying to get projects done back and forth via Slack messaging, where things get really confusing. So every morning at 10 a.m., we have a 15-minute slot where the entire team, SEO and life cycle, like they all had different 15-minute slots, but for me and the performance marketing team, 15 minutes every morning. We had 15 minutes every evening, but it turned into overkill. So we just stayed to the 15 minutes in the morning. And then twice a week, we have 1.5 blocks where we split the client list in 2. 1 1.5 block is dedicated to, making sure everything's on track from a project management perspective on one set. Same for the other set then, and the other 1.5 working block. And we just work it out live on the call. But most importantly, in the background, we use Supernormal. We have meeting notes and transcripts turned on. So no one's actually, no one's forced to take notes. And you can go back and you can review it and look at things afterwards if you need to. I've never personally had to, but it's still really, it's something I learned the hard way, just to have a log of everything, because other people can go back in and just watch it again or like look at it again, especially because sometimes in those sessions I'd be like, oh, well, you have to do this kind of complicated tracking setup for that. And then it'd be, can you show me? And you have to do a bit of a demonstration. So yeah, I think so long as it's clear, concise, and readily available to review again is really important.
Do you know, now we've mentioned it like 3 or 4 times, but Supernormal is a life changer. I'm using the free version. I've stopped using Zoom, even though I'm paying for Zoom, because Supernormal comes in as an extra person and it makes me record the whole meeting, and I don't want to do that. So with Google Meet, it's just there running in the background. And I had a meeting the other day and it was a complex topic. It's about like, some kind of hospital video kind of thing. And I was like kind of trying to digest the information and take it in. And I took my own notes and I was like, okay, I kind of get it. And then I went to the Supernormal notes and I was like, okay, the AI understood this conversation so much better than I did. So I was able to paste in their actual understanding of what was going on as opposed to my thinking that I was understanding. So I would totally recommend Supernormal, and thank you for suggesting it in the first place, Jen. Just a quick one before we move on to the cons and what pisses us off about internal comms. Shan, what's your favorite preferred method of being communicated with?
Oh, FaceTime. I've been video calling for years before COVID. I always want to see someone's face, but I don't have to be in the room with them, but FaceTime always. Yeah.
Interesting. Jane?
With clients or with
anyone? Like, I suppose, yeah, break it up if you need to, though.
Big fan if it's like an internal project. Big fan of voice notes.
Same.
Simple.
Anything.
Off you go. Bye. But if it's clients, I'm happy to take a call, phone call, Zoom, whatever works, whatever's they're comfortable with. To be honest, I don't mind, but I think voice notes are a godsend sometimes.
Same. Yeah. Jen?
What I love about Slack is that when you send a voice notice, it accompanies it with the transcript. So I just read people's voice notes. Something triggers me about voice notes. I will listen to them and I'll send them back sometimes, but it's one of those things. WhatsApp need to release that ASAP. I'm sorry, I need a transcript with everything, just because I'll read it quicker than I can listen to it.
I messaged you that as well. If you send a voice note and iMessage, so I'd say it will come soon.
Yeah. It's the only gap.
And Jen, what don't you like about voice notes? Because I love them, so I find it hard to see what doesn't work.
When I listen to them, it's just I can read faster than listen to it, I suppose. So I get the information in quicker. Okay.
So I love a voice note too, and you two do. But do any of us listen to them on normal speed?
I do.
1.5 or 2.
Oh, I'm a 1.5 or 2 girl.
That wrecks my head now. Just normal is fine for me.
Okay.
Jay, half your day must be gone.
I'm working away while I'm listening, like.
I feel like it's like a little mini podcast to your day.
That's it. I'm one of those people, like my wife doesn't understand me, like where I'd be working upstairs wherever I'm. I have music blaring and I'm working away. And the music is actually helping me get in the mode. I'm not actually paying attention to the music really. It's just kind of, it's taking away the attention that wouldn't, like, it's taking away the distractions. It kind of puts me under a bit, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's slightly situational too, to a degree. Like if I'm going through a sales process, I don't want you in my email or Slack. I need to be on the phone with you. now I can get it through that way. But, you know, if I need to talk to like an employee about something serious, then I need that to be face-to-face recorded. If, you know, it depends situationally as well. Like, it's not just, it doesn't come down to preference. Sometimes it just comes down to necessity too, because my preference would rarely to jump on an hour-long call. It would be, you know, if there's a smoother, more efficient way for me to move through it, but needs must a lot of the time too.
Brilliant. Okay, so on to, I suppose, I don't know if it's what pisses you off about internal comms, but like, or is it what's broken about as a company gets bigger, it becomes more difficult to communicate? Or in general, though, like, what do you think is the problem with internal communications in the modern day? And Shan first, please.
I think for small business, the problem is that they don't have to use it, but they see other people using it and they think that, you know, I had a client many moons ago that was a solopreneur. She didn't even have a team, and she was connecting me up to a Trello. And I was like, listen, it's taking you longer to fill out this Trello than actually to do the work that you need to get done. So, yeah, that pisses me off. People that think that they need all the jigs and the reels when they don't. And then with bigger business, what pisses me off is that they only use the jigs and the reels and they forget about human connection.
Great way of putting it. Yep. She's like, mic down. That's
the end.
Enough said. Jay?
Twofold, really. I think what pisses me off about it is with all this stuff is the language is actually, it's lost. The tone of the voice is lost. Like, you can get an email or you can get a message and go, what the fuck's that mean? But they could be the nicest person, just meaning like, you know, yeah, go on, have a good one. Like, what the fuck's that mean, you bitch? Like, you know, that kind of stuff. Or like, so just all that kind of stuff. And then as Shan was saying, well, the opposite of what Shan was saying, the busybodies who use it to fill half the day. You know, let's put that in a meeting. Let's get a call. Let's get this. I'm like, as you said, it could be one email and that's it. But like all this stuff, the back and forths. Pure example, no, I'm working with quite a high corporate, one of the biggest in the world. And it's just all internal. And it's needed. It is because we're working on a big project. But at the same time, a lot of it could be done with one Zoom call per week. We could cover it all. And it's just the back and forth. And I get it. I understand. But I would not saying that there's busybodies in that one, but like there are people in these worlds that are busybodies that just half their job is doing admin on this chat, like, or on this, you know, that kind of stuff. So it's going to piss me off. But yeah, mainly it's losing the tone of, as Shan says, I want to see your face. I want to see your reaction when I speak to you. So I think that helps. And then the voice notes, you can pick that up as well.
Yeah, and like emails can sound really bitchy, can't they? And then actually what I sometimes do, like if I'm like in weird form where I'm feeling quite emotional or if I'm feeling defensive or something like that, and I know I am that day, I'll read out the email in the way that I'm reading it. And it's like, Dear Judie, me. And then I read it again and I'm like, Dear Judie, la la. And the whole context of the email changes if I change the tone that's reading it in my head. And I'm like, okay, maybe they weren't trying to dig at me. Maybe they were actually just being nice. Sorry, Shan, I think I interrupted you.
No, I was just going to say, like, I don't want to work with people that can't, I you know, if you organise a Zoom and if you're working with a corporate, sometimes this happens to me and they're like, oh, so-and-so will be on the call, but they won't be showing their face. I mean, I teach networking and the amount of people that jump on a call, there'll be 50 people doing a session and 10 of them won't have their camera on. And I'm like, I'm teaching you networking. I'm teaching you how to network. You need to show your face. But I don't like the whole turning the screen off. I think it's rude. Just my opinion.
And I came across a stat today that said in larger organizations, the employees who have their cameras off the most are like something like 35% more likely to leave in the next 6 months. So it's kind of what's that quiet quitting? You're just kind of like slowly removing yourself from the thing.
Yeah, I don't think it should be an option. If you're working and you're being paid by someone and you're having a meeting, I don't think it should be an option to turn the camera off. That's my personal opinion. I know sometimes people's cameras break. This seems to happen an awful lot, actually, as well. You know, normally when there's blue tack stuck over the flipping camera. But I do think it's rude. And I think that should be a given that if you're turning up for a meeting, you should show yourself.
Put your pants on, show up for the goddamn meeting and turn on the camera.
Unless you have the plague or your Wi-Fi is truly poor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jen, what breaks your head about internal comms?
I mean, all of the above. There's a really good book by Cal Newport. It's called A World Without Email. And he talks about the transition to email and how it came about initially when Bill Gates and Microsoft, when he first released email, it was released first as an internal communication tool. And he told his employees that like the only way to get a decision over the line via him was to email him. He wanted to make email a used form. And the way that's structured and filtered out towards other companies is actually entirely how we use emails now. And it's just a really interesting, even if you just listen to that snippet, it's just really interesting in terms of like how this form of communication that we all just take for granted came about, because there's still something to be said. Like I consider the time in the morning and the evening with my team as like the equivalent of office hours. Like if you have a problem, save it for the call. You're more likely to get through it quicker. If not, you're only going to get into my email blocks, and those are going to be, twice a day, 15-minute blitzes to inbox zero. And if I don't get what you're talking about, I'm just going to wait to that call anyway. So you may as well wait. So, I mean, there's the whole understanding of why it's there and if it's even necessary a lot of the time. I think the necessary means of communication, again, to busybodies is a massive thing. Like I can always tell if someone's doesn't have enough work on their plate on my team by how busy they are in Slack and email. If you're really busy on admin, you're not busy on anything else, and there's more important and pressing things to be done 90% of the time. So sometimes it just yeah. And the other thing is that I get accused all the time of being extremely cold via email, but I am just blitzing it. I am just like slice. Even people close to me that I've had to email, like Joe's, like a friend or something needed something. I had to laugh because recently I was helping someone do a picture of their husband to be at the time, do like a hen party poster of him for their hen party, and I had to like put this cowboy face. I had to put him on a ripped cowboy's body, essentially on a horseback, like he was fabulous, And like I was there etching away, and it was big on the screen. I had to like tell my family to get out of the room. No one could see what I was doing, but it was like that. I was like, "Here's your picture. Thanks, Jen." Sometimes I'm like, oh wait, that needs to have a little bit of lightheartedness to it. I don't know what it is about email. I blitz it so hard that half the time I come across pretty badly. It's actually something I need to work on. But it's all these little things that can just be misconstrued, where it's like someone who knows me knows I blitz my inbox and know that I'm not being cold with them, but concise. And so it depends as well, doesn't it?
I find myself doing that as well, where I'd write an email out and I'd look back and go, oh no, I need to change that. But like, here are the files. If there's any problem, I'm like, and then I go back and go like, hey guys, hope all is great, just to know I've attached the file below. It's literally just go.
There's a really interesting guy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I'll add it to the show notes afterwards if I can remember it. But he is a language expert on Instagram. I don't know if you've come across him, but essentially he goes through how communication is misconstrued between generations, was his most recent video. And he talks about different things that happen in history that changed the way we speak and how it's like misconstrued. So essentially he's like talking about, once upon a time, not that long ago, you'd be charged by the text message. So you try get as much as you could into a text message, and you might put 3 dots or like a dash in between your sentences to break the message up. And nowadays, or a full stop, you'd use a full stop between your sentences. Whereas now you just text enter, and you slice your messages into like a series of messages instead. And this actually leads Generation Z or early millennials as well to really think of the full stop as something like abrasive or like rude or something like that. Because why would you add that? You subconsciously say to yourself, why is that full stop there? There was no need for it. But someone else is saying, I'm just breaking up my sentences like I used to. So it's all these, he goes through language and its subtleties and how we perceive it. And it's just super interesting.
Sorry, go on, Jay.
Just what type of texter are you is another thing. Like I'm one of the, hey, how are you? ? Send. Any news? Send ? Like, but I get messages back that like the whole thing is a bulk. And I'm like, why isn't that broken up? Like as when you read sentences, that's how I text anyway. I'm one of those old people. Like,
well, I think people feel harassed by our barrage of mini text. I've been told that a few times. Yeah, and I'm like, welcome to my stream of thought. Just one thing on TikTok that I saw yesterday. Can't remember what video I was watching. Totally, some video anyway that was shocking in nature, and all the comments underneath, they went, "Oh, you won't believe what he did when his like ex-wife got home and realized that he was ... see more. And then, but they're actually typing in ... see more.
Yeah.
So you keep pressing on see
Yeah,
more,
yeah.
but then you're liking the comment, and then their comment is getting raised. And then I went into the replies, and everyone's like, got me, bro. Good. Like, I haven't seen that before, but it fits so well that TikTok is going to have to change the font or something like that.
There's I just put it in the chat there. His name is Adam Alexic. His etymology nerd is his underscore, but he's so interesting.
Cool.
Like he was going through one of his like PhD projects that he did where he made up his own language and how to make up your own language and how if you just do a set of 10 rules, you have a whole language, and it's a whole thing, like rising languages from the dead that haven't been heard for thousands of years based on like the 10 rules and things like that. It's really good. But that's a really deep dive side rant.
I can see you reading that or looking at that going, am I doing this? Am I setting up my own language? Am I doing this?
Yeah. Aren't we all?
Teaching your employees your own language.
Yeah. I have a new way to communicate, guys. It's called Genibish.
Nice Genibish.
Didn't Ronald D. Hubbard or whoever invented Scientology, didn't he invent that off a bet? I think he was just really smart. Like Jen, he could fly planes. He had he could do all these things, and he was just bored. And his friends were like, bet you can't invent a new religion. And he's like, watch me fly, guys.
Oh my beard.
But it's when I was in Gibraltar recently, I was listening to people talk, and it dawned on me that they were speaking both Spanish and English together in the same conversation because they're growing up with both of the languages. And then you could hear some words where you're like, that's not that word in Spanish and that's not that word in English. It's a blend of the two words for the same meaning. So I just spent my time there eavesdropping. Anyway, apparently languages is my new thing. So...
Am I starting a language school? Are we doing this?
No, but on the side I'm thinking of
English classes.
Yeah. I'm really thinking about learning Japanese, so that's my next deep dive.
Nice. I know someone doing Japanese and they're loving it.
Yeah, I'd say it'll be really good. I had to laugh though because my partner said to me, "You barely want to speak to people in English. Why do you want to learn a second? Why do you want to learn a second language? You're not going to practice it with anyone."
I'd say you'd thrive in somewhere like Japan, just with the customs and the kind of keeping to yourself and the silence on the subways and stuff. You're like,
but it's the rules and organization of that all as well.
Yeah,
the societal structure has
Look
so
at
much.
The smile on her face as she says it.
I joined a Zoom with Jen the other day, and I had a T-shirt on saying "making it up as I go," and she's like, "Yeah, I'm not doing that." I was like, "I know you're not." Every day is like, whoa.
Funny.
So actually, one thing that I do want to mention as well before we move on is that Springboard Communications released the Internal Communications in Ireland report 2024 with insights and opportunities. And I was scanning through this there earlier to see what kind of stood out to me. Basically, what it's saying is that internal comms is on the rise for most businesses. And something that ChatGPT told me a second ago was that companies rank higher on NASDAQ if they have better internal comms as well. But sorry, I digress.
Machine, yeah.
Well,
a machine is obviously going to do better.
Yeah, I suppose. But the one thing that stood out to me, and Jen, you'll like this, is they asked the respondents, have you used an AI tool as part of your internal communications work, e.g. generative tools such as ChatGPT? And was it 41% said, yes, I have. Sorry, this was the one that I was actually interested in. Does your organization have guidelines or policies in place for how to use AI? No was 50%. Don't know was 8%, and yes was 42%. Are you shocked by that? I kind of was.
I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked because the technology is so new. But what I would say is that, like, do you know what the best example of this is? When AI came out first, someone on Samsung's team put in all of the specs of the new device that they were coming out with and asked AI, like, how would they improve it? And they were using ChatGPT 3. So the core difference between 3 and 4, everyone, is that 3 will suck in all your information to the database and regurgitate it from other responses for other users. 4, because you're paying for it, you have the luxury of some element of privacy there in terms of what it's sucking into to regenerate and learn from. And other people were asking about Samsung devices, and it was spitting back out the specs that weren't even released yet.
Oh.
Yeah, they got in huge
That's-
trouble. I think they believe they were fired.
Have to be. I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh dear.
treason, like.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Like, as we were saying earlier, like, can you imagine the amount of fucking bureaucracy and the amount of people that would have to sign off on something like that kind of document?
Mm-hmm.
No wonder they're probably the 50% that said no are like hardly all trying to get that out there and get something in place for that. But it's just that the bureaucracy of it all, and just.
I gotta say, my internal policies improved a lot with ChatGPT. I had this €600 invoice from a well-known consultancy company that I needed paid, and they sent me this email, and they were like, "We can't pay you. We can't set you up as a supplier until we get your slavery policy, your like diversity and inclusion policy, your like." And I was like, I'm one person. And I was going to fight back, and I was going to be like, and then I was like, do you know what? ChatGPT, my company's a Bit Academy. Here's what I do. Give me a diversity and inclusion policy. Now I have a suite of policies that I actually stand by. I read through them and I was like, yeah, okay, this is good. Signed to the bottom of them, sent them all off. And I was like, ka-ching.
Yeah, that's it. Like, I recently got one, and I've never been asked for it, so I was surprised. But when I said it to the guys here in Tech 9, they're like, oh yeah, like I'm working with a conglomerate, is that what the fucking word is, at the moment, and it's about a video project, and they're like, oh yeah, we just need your tax clearance certs. I was like, fucking tax clearance? Like, what business is yours with my fucking tax clearance? Oh, I am, and I got it for them, but like, yeah, they were like, oh yeah, they want to make sure you're up to date and you're this kind of stuff. But like, if you were any way behind, you'd lost the gig. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you know what though? I do like that though, Jay, because I when it comes to accounts, I think it's important to be accountable. And I think so I like that they asked, I've got no
it shows you're on point and you're up to date with everything and everything's paid, because obviously they can't be seen to be doing business with shady people and stuff. But I got it and I sent it off and it's all approved. But
yeah.
Still though, I was just threw me back. I was like, oh, I didn't think they could ask for that, but obviously they can.
It's a huge thing in training in particular, especially with public service. Public service won't let you touch anything without your tax clearance cert.
Yeah, I'm always sending my tax clearance cert. I say everyone has a copy of my tax clearance cert.
Yeah, but you work a lot with the government, don't you?
Yeah. Okay, so just to get through now the episode, because this has been very fun. Tell me, can you teach me anything new to help me improve internal comms or about internal comms that I might not have known in the past? It's a tough one. Would anyone like to raise their hand and go first?
I'll take it.
Thanks, Jay. Yep.
It's nothing new. Set your boundaries. It's so important. Like, set your boundaries to who you are and what you do. Like, even to your internal people. Like, don't contact me here. Don't contact me there. And set up boundaries and set up a tone that they know it. If they email you at 4:45 at night, you're not going to get an email back till tomorrow morning till I do my blitz in the morning. Let's say like Jen does, I have 2 blitzes. Let your team know this is the scenario, and if it's an emergency, you can contact me. Otherwise, here, and here. But that's how I would do it, because again, I don't have many. I wouldn't have employees per se. I work with other contractors and other freelancers on projects, so they know not to contact me. You've seen the bottom. I know I've said it before in the podcast about the bottom of my email. Like, I use that line for people. Like, I used like that the designer who's doing my brand. I sent that to her literally. If I get back to you and you're not working, don't get back to me. Contact me in your own time, and I think it's important.
Yep. Brilliant. Jen?
I think there's 2 sides to what Jay is saying, actually, as well, just to riff off of what he's saying, is like, you can create boundaries, but you could also have to create boundaries with yourself. I mean, I don't have a single app on my phone with a notification on. I'll check them in my own time. Like, I'll blitz Instagram the same way I blitz my emails, and I tend not to open the apps in between. I also keep my phone in black and white, so that I don't have all the colors and stuff. So there's small things that you can do there as well that like help you stay away from the notifications, because they're built on a system of, gamification in of themselves. So, staying away from your own notifications it can be a piece of the puzzle.
Sorry, you keep your phone in black and white as in Instagram feeds and TikTok and everything?
I was going to say that as well. I tried and I couldn't look at the content. I was lost, because obviously I need to look at videos and content, so I couldn't do it.
I'll turn it back on just while I'm doing a blitz of, if I'm doing a session where I'm like, right, I need 10 new ideas for videos that I have to record next week, then I'll turn it back on for that. But if I catch myself like, oh, I'm just browsing and going to change the color, that's just my own notification to myself being like, you don't need to be even looking at this, like do something productive with
I
your
did
life.
turn it on and I was like, turned it back.
What I did was, you know, in the control center where you drop down, where you can like switch to low battery mode and all of those, you can actually add it there. So you can
that's smart.
toggle it really quickly. So like I toggle it when I really need to, but like I try to keep it on as much as possible.
Shan, are you in stitches because it's so bizarre, or what?
I'm laughing because unfortunately my laptop died on me halfway through this pod, and so I'm on the phone, so I can only see one person at a time. So as people are going, I'm only seeing one of you, so I can see in what order. But do you know what? Like, I just think there's so many. You know, we've got the Asanas, the Trellos, the Hootsuite, the Toggle. You know, there's so many ways to communicate. And I think actually the most important thing to remember is that we all communicate in different ways. We all learn in different ways. And so the way that we deal with everybody shouldn't be one way. You know, like I work with one of my VAs. She sends me a lot of looms because I'm a visual learner. So I say to her, look, you know, what if we did this? What if we did that? And she will do it on a loom. She'll send me the loom. And then I don't need to speak to her, but that's how I communicate best. And then somebody else will just want it in email. And I think it's really hard to find one thing that suits everybody. Like you said earlier, when you did that survey, it was 20%, 20%, 20%. So I think we've got, you know, and I love boundaries and everything else, but we've got to accommodate everybody. You know, this is what it's all about now. To be more inclusive is to understand people's needs. And so I think, for me, what I'd like to teach everybody is not one thing suits all. And it's important to ask what suits people best. And I do think internal comms, when you make mistakes like that ChatGPT situation, that's down to a staff handbook. And if you've got, you know, if you're taking on members of staff, then all of that information should be in there. And if you only work with freelancers like myself, then we have kind of I have a freelance agreement, and it's a contract, the same as I would give an employee. And we agree, and it's up to them at the beginning of that arrangement to tell me if they want something slightly different. And there's been plenty of people that have wanted that to be more flexible, and that's easy to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with all of that. Yeah, I think having clarity. I think for me, I suppose I work with a few people very closely, and I would be very aware of other people's, like I try to be aware anyway of other people's feelings and emotions quite a lot. So I try to pick up on if I'm under communicating or over communicating with them. Where I've seen it go wrong though is when organizations get bigger and there's issues arising and the staff are unhappy and there's stuff going down and they're like, let's just keep pretending it's not happening. And I'm like, and you know, they sound so simple, but send out a survey. And I know you don't want the survey results, but sometimes allowing people even to get the shit down on the anonymous survey makes them feel like, well, I've done my part now. I can show up.
They're never annomous either.
They're never anonymous. The internet is always traceable.
Well, I will just actually, they are. I mean, I've worked for a couple of very large companies. They are anonymous, but you pay a company to put the information together for you. So I would never know, Jay, from the surveys that came back through Whitbread or David Lloyd, or even when we've done them for Network Ireland, actually, which was a big network that I worked with, we actually paid an external company to do those surveys. And then you physically can't see who sends what.
But when you don't, and or not even it's the sending part, but like the reading of it, sometimes you're like, oh, John Joe.
Yeah. You've heard them say it out loud. You're like,
I heard him saying that the other day about the microwave in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
John Joe. Earlier. Sorry, you had 2 points. You said the black and white, and there was another one. I cut you off. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember what the other one was, so we're all good.
My fault. Sorry.
All good. Sure, it was really insightful. It was the golden,
it was
the golden nugget.
It was the lasagna of the chat. Like.
Okay, so final thing: are you as productive in the summertime as you are in the wintertime, or do you just constantly feel sleepy and like you want to be outside? And I'll end it there.
I'm more so productive. I think I'm way more. Productive,
me too. Yeah. The winter time, I wrap up early. Like I'm like, oh, it's dark. I'm done now. It's 6 o'clock. Whereas in the summer, I'm like, I could power through till 8 o'clock and then still have an hour of sunlight.
Yeah, that's true. I probably work longer hours but I definitely feel a bit more sluggish at the moment anyway.
I think you're fucking sluggish 12 months a year, Judy.
I am actually. I'm actually, do you know what I am? I'm a slug.
I would be definitely, I get up with the sun, so I would be up earlier, but if the sun stays out, then I'm trying to finish as quickly as I can, because by 2 or 3 o'clock I want to lie in my sunbed. End of. And I'm more productive in the summer because a lot of my clients are away during the summer, so no one's emailing me, interrupting my day. It's brilliant. I love it.
I recently took the curtains out of my room to try that, and I'm actually loving it. And I know it's like, slightly, like another thing to add to the bizarre list, I suppose, but give it a go.
My wife just bought a massive mask because it starts waking up at like 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, just get up. She's like, absolutely not.
Love.
How dare you recommend that idea to me? Like,
yeah. Anyone who tries to interrupt my sleep or gives out about my over tiredness, just not part of my Christmas list anymore. Jay. Yeah. Thanks a million, everyone, for watching or listening to the podcast. Please like or subscribe or share it. Share it on LinkedIn or something like that if it's something that you found interesting, and reach out to any of us if you've got any questions. We'll be back next week with episode 32. Goodbye.